In the back of the book segment tonight, a homeless man's good deed ends in a tragedy in New York City. Take a look at this chilling surveillance video. It shows a Guatemalan immigrant trying to stop a woman from being attacked by another man. The Good Samaritan was stabbed by the attacker, and shockingly, he was left on the street while people walked on by, one person even rolling the man over before continuing on his way. Joining us now from Boston is Dr. Keith Ablow, a psychiatrist and a Fox News contributor, and in New York, Andrew Smiley, a trial attorney. Gentlemen, very sad story. We're going to try to figure this out. First, I want to go to you, Dr. Ablow. What makes people, I like to think of the best of people, I like to think that people want to help. What would make someone walk by, seeing someone suffering as he was?
Sure. Well, look, first, obviously, this impulse in people to walk on by is the opposite of empathy and courage. We get that. So why would empathy and courage be paralyzed in a situation like this? Social psychologists have looked at this for decades, ever since Kitty Genovese was raped and murdered, while apartment dwellers around that area did nothing. A few called police, and that's about it. Nobody came out of the building to help her. Bottom line is that there's something called the bystander effect, which asserts, it's social psychology research, it's been upheld in clinical trials, and it asserts that people will do no more than others do for a person they see as suffering if it's in a public setting. So in this kind of setting, you can imagine the number of people present is nearly infinite. You imagine all the people around in buildings and townhouses, whatever it might be. So people will do no more than anyone else. And what's more, there's something called the diffusion effect, which is that they feel that they shouldn't do any more than their part, that they should only participate as much as the group does. I think that's what leads people to do so little.
And Andrew, let's move on to the legal issue. We'll get back to the why. But could there also be something in this, that people walk by and they want to help, but they're actually worried about their own liability? Right. If they move him and something happens or something goes wrong and then he dies, or I mean, I'm trying to give this the best possible spin, and it looks really bad on the video. Right. But could the trial lawyer culture that we live in be contributing to this seeming heartlessness?
Well, listen, I'm as outraged as anybody watching this video that my fellow New Yorkers are so jaded that they can walk by somebody dying on the street and absolutely do nothing. But as surprising as it may sound, someone could be dying in front of your eyes, and there's absolutely no duty under the law to call for help, to pick up a phone and call 911, to render aid or assistance or do anything. There simply isn't what we call a duty to rescue. Now, what you're saying is some people may be concerned that if they do something, action can be taken against them. There's what's called the Good Samaritan laws, which basically means that if you're walking by and you see somebody on the ground in trouble and you go to render assistance, and let's say you cause them more harm by trying to help them out, you're worried that they sue you, they can only sue you and recover damages for gross negligence. So if you really go out of your way to cause more harm and do something what we call beyond ordinary care. If you go and you just try and help, you can't be sued. You're immune from that. But the reality is people just don't want to get involved. They may be worried that if they do get involved, they can face some type of criminal responsibility or a civil liability. So they just keep on walking by, and it's a sad commentary on what goes on here, certainly in New York.
And Andrew, you touched on something that Dr. A, you can chime in on, this feeling that people might have that, oh, I don't want to get involved. Look, I have enough problems. I mean, if I stop and then, Lord, and then the police will be interviewing, I'll turn around, it'll be, 2 in the morning. That could also be coming into play, right?
Especially
and again, it's a human life involved, so it's hard to...
Absolutely. And listen, Laura, I counsel families where you could say there are bystanders. In other words, there are families in which one person is terribly hurt by another family member, and the family doesn't react. Why? They don't want the trouble. They don't want to acknowledge it. There's denial that sets in, and I think it sets in this kind of setting too. And by the way, not to expand just from one event to our whole culture, but guess what? When there's trouble in a culture, what you rely on is heroism and individual action. To the extent that people think, oh, no, everybody will take care of it, that's where you go down the wrong road, and you end up with people getting hurt badly socially and culturally when individuals should have stood up to say this can't be happening.
As usual, Dr. Abloh drills down to the core cultural question, which is what's happened to us? You know, this is what you do because it's the right thing to do. What happened to that calculation? And Andrew, what about the woman who was rescued? I mean, she was rescued by this man's actions. She disappeared. No liability for her, even if they could find her. Am I right about that?
That's correct. There's no liability for her. And, you know, listen, good deeds still happen. Here in New York City, there are people that have gone diving onto subway tracks to rescue people, so it does actually happen. Don't give up hope. But there's no criminal liability. The woman, you know, fortunately this guy helped her out, and hopefully maybe she'll come around and try and help out the police in some regard, maybe find out who did this to him.
Well, it's a very sad situation, but we tried to unpack it. Gentlemen, thanks a lot.